What is up, my fellow mobile gamers? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to counter the very popular burn build and also the assault build as well. Subscribe to the channel, thumbs up this video is greatly appreciated. We got some PvP battles, some big PvP events coming on, and the most popular build that everyone has known by now is the burn build. You do a ridiculous amount of damage. It's good for PvP content, PvE content, very combo oriented. You can put out like a ridiculous amount of damage. Sometimes when I go full combo, I'm putting out like 5,000 damage and the health bar of the enemy just gets completely drained in like one turn. It's sick. However, there is a downside to the burn build and also the assault build. We haven't covered the assault build yet on this channel, but we will in the future, very soon, probably this week. But there is a very easy way to counter it, and this is a pretty simple team. This is your basic control team. There is another more advanced control team, which I will go over in a different video. But this one, pretty much anyone starting out, all new players will have access to a lot of these characters because they're fairly easy to get. We have Yi Sun Sin, Boudica, and finally Li Shiming. Also has a name change, so if we go and we take a look at the heroes, it will also come up as Emperor Taizong. This is your starting hero if you choose the Chinese faction. This is your starting hero if you choose Britain. So the main idea behind this build is that your characters are going to have all skills that are going to inflict silence or disarm. Now, silence will stop an active skill from happening. Disarm will stop a normal attack from happening. Disarm is good when you're going up an assault build team, and then silence is good when you're going up against someone who has a burn build. Now, when it comes to distributing your hero points, you really want to make sure that you have the speed as high as possible. You'll notice that for him, I do have his attack buffed pretty high at 20, and then the speed is only plus 10. I could definitely dump more points into speed. Thing with this build is the fact that if you're going up against someone who has the burn build, they don't necessarily buff their speed. The only character they're going to buff their speed on is going to be like Mary or the other chick, Thedora or whatever, in case they have her replaced. Otherwise, like, the main idea of the burn build is you want Leonidas and El Cid to be slower because you want their effects to go off, because you want all your enemies to be burned first. So you don't have to worry too much about getting like a super duper high speed, because usually what people will do for like the burn build, they'll just put enough points in Mary's speed just so that it's above Leonidas's, because Leonidas has the next base highest speed. His base speed is 114, so really most people will just buff her speed to like 115 or 116, 120, and then that's it, and they won't even touch El Cid. They'll just dump all their points into his attack, something similar to this. So you can get away with like only having it up to like 120 or 130. So for like Boudica, you'll see that we have it buffed plus 20. So she has a speed of 127. So she's almost always going to go first if you're going against someone who has the burn build, unless they like really dumped a lot of points into their speed. And then if we take a look at our Emperor, I went ahead and you'll see I dumped 20 points into his speed because his base speed is very low. It's only 88. So I really wanted to buff that up. You want to interrupt the burn combo, so you always want to have your characters kind of go like not necessarily always ahead of them, but even if like one goes ahead of the other, you just don't want all three of the burn characters to go in a row, because that's when the combo can just chain and you can get one-shotted in one round, and you don't want that to happen. So a lot of the skills you're going to take are just skills that are going to either silence or disarm your enemy, and all three of these characters have a main special ability that has to do with either silencing or disarm. So if we take a look right here, two enemies will get either silenced or disarmed. So this is absolutely amazing. And then if they're already silenced, disarmed, or exhausted, they will be stunned, which is absolutely insane. That means they can't do anything. So they can't use an active skill, they can't use a normal attack, they cannot do nothing, which is really strong. He's one of the best control characters in this game just based on his special ability. And then you'll take things like Prayer of Victory. This just increases an active skill's trigger chance, which is very important because we want this to go off 100%. You'll see chance of being activated 31%. So it is very relatively low, and you'll notice that with a lot of the skills that have to do with silencing or disarming. A lot of their like proc chances are pretty low, so you always want to have them as high as possible. And then another one that I took, and this is kind of something that you don't necessarily have to take, the game doesn't recommend this, but I thought this was good to just get some extra damage in, is Mountain Hunter. Again, this is an A category, so this is relatively easy to get. Are some really good S card skills, crazy strong with like silencing or disarming. If you have those, you definitely want to put them on these characters. If you don't though, you'll definitely want to take something like Prayer of Victory, Mountain Hunter. Mountain Hunter just does one physical attack and it disarms them, and then if they're already in a controlled state, the damage the target receives will be increased by 20% for generally one turn. So we're getting some extra damage, because that's one thing that this build can kind of suffer on. It's a lot of controlling, a lot of silencing and disarming and stuff like that, but you don't really put out a lot of damage. So the battle can go on for a long time. I mean, you can go like 10 plus turns with this team. And if you are facing an enemy who scales their damage over time, that's where you can kind of get destroyed. So that's like the biggest weakness to control teams is the teams that scale over time, like the turns. Like after this turn, they keep getting stronger, and then they're, you know, just increasing their attack the longer the battles go. That's the downside to the control team, but the control team can completely stop the burn builds and like the assault teams. And what I mean by assault teams is like the normal attack teams. There's a couple builds where the characters are all focused on like combos. And I'll go over that in another video, but there's a specific skill that says enter a combo state, and it just makes you do a ton of normal attacks over and over and over again. So that's why you would want to do something like disarm. Disarm can stop that. You can kind of change these skills around and have some of them all about silencing or some of them all about disarming, depending on who you may be going up against or what you think is the most popular. Or you can take a combination of both. Like I have a combination of both. I got a little bit of silence and a little bit of disarm. This is an absolutely insane skill right here. Perform a physical attack to 2 enemy targets, and there's a 50% chance of inflicting silence on the targets. If they're already under silence, then there's a 50% chance to extend it for another round. And the chance of being activated for this is 50%. So you'll see. Then we also have Hammer of Anvil. Every time 3 of your soldiers make an enemy controlled, a random enemy's damage will be decreased. Of course, that's what we're always going to be doing. We're always going to be putting out silence or stun or something on the enemy. So this one really triggers a lot. It really helps to lower the enemy's attack. And then for our Emperor, his special ability, an enemy gets hit with the 1 physical attack, silenced. If they're already under a control, another target will be silenced. Really, really strong. We then have Heart of Avalon. 2 enemies get hit with a physical attack. If they're already being controlled, which they should be, a random wounded ally will be healed. So we'll get some healing. And then for his 3rd skill, we have Willful Hammer. And then if they're already silenced, there's a 60% chance that a random enemy will become stunned for an average 1 turn. So you'll see a lot of these are silencing and stunning. So this build, I highly recommend, because people aren't going to see it coming. A lot of people are so focused on this burn build, and because it is very powerful, but you can really catch someone off guard with this. Another really good skill you want to look out for is this one, Snow at the Front Lines. This is an A tier card. I actually don't have this unlocked. An enemy who has a control effect on them will actually take increased damage. It's going to reduce your opponent's damage, but then because you're going to be silencing them, stunning them and stuff, it's actually going to increase your damage when you attack someone who's under a control effect. And then the other 2 skills you could also put on one of these characters is the Panic effect. And if we click on it, it just means that damage will be continually inflicted on heroes every turn. So it's kind of like Panic is kind of similar to what I would call like poison, right? You're just poisoning them and they just kind of take damage every turn, a little bit of damage, and you know, it adds up. And then you would pair that up with the S card Roman Scorpion Ballista. If this hits a target in the panic mode, the user will temporarily have their strength increased by a percentage. So again, this just makes you put out more damage. So you can do like a control build with damage, or you can just do a strictly control build. And that is it for today, folks. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed the video. Stay happy, stay safe, my friends. I'll see y'all later. Peace.